done. So if it snows harder, you're ready to just. You're okay. Fantastic. Welcome. Are you ready for your next act? Woo. We have our next person is also from down south. Her name is Heidi. Please welcome to the stage the fabulous Heidi.
Good evening. My name is Heidi Kretzer. I live in northern New York. I love to play in the snow, and people never really know what I do for work. I work for the Wildlife Conservation Society, and when I tell people that, they think I'm a wildlife expert. I'm not. I'm a social scientist, and as a social scientist, I study people who conserve wildlife. I'm trying to work out how to make them breed more. I mean, I'm trying to get more people engaged in conserving wildlife. My job titles never really explain very well what I do. In 1998, I started as the director of the Adirondack Landscape Program, and everyone thought I was mowing lawns and raking leaves. In 2003, I went to graduate school, and I must have partied a lot there because when I returned to the Wildlife Conservation Society in 2008, the folks there had a solution for describing what I do in my vital role. They called me livelihoods coordinator. That's clear. Keeping it lively. Party coordinator. Party with the wildlife. The moose really know how to mosh. Luckily, I changed my title. I got to change my title after 10 lively years. And now I'm a conservation social scientist. The life has been completely drained out of my title. It's great. I actually do some really cool things for work. I save wildlife and wild places by getting people involved in conservation solutions. Thank you. There aren't many conservationists left in the US. They've all moved to Canada. So we need more people in conservation. We need them at the individual level and at a policy level, because individuals take actions that change policy. So last week in the United States, we celebrated Thanksgiving dinner. You all celebrated that a little bit earlier because it's much colder here. And I don't know about in Canada, but in the US, around the Thanksgiving table, we have a lot of different opinions about the environment. Does it exist? Is human development destroying the ecosystem? Is the earth round? I'm guessing in Canada that you just have a nice meal, and then you talk about some hockey, and then maybe you mosh with a moose. My challenge in my job and around the Thanksgiving dinner table is to get people to make the right choices so wildlife can live happily. For my work in land use planning, this means keeping buildings closer together and not spread across the landscape. It means maintaining large contiguous forests rather than isolated patches of trees everywhere. And it means giving wildlife access to normal, natural foods so they're not reliant on bowls of Lucky Charms left out by very well-meaning humans on the back porch. So I love Thanksgiving dinner. I started going to my husband's Thanksgiving family dinner about 20 years ago. I love seeing the family. And then there's that element of Thanksgiving where I not only see my relatives, but I have to talk with them. Like my husband's Aunt Betty. Here's the process. Every year, I try to keep it light during the cocktail hour. Hi, Aunt Betty. Nice to see you. How are you? Is anything new this year? No. I don't think Aunt Betty wants to talk to me. Well, that's really great. how have you been doing? Fine. Okay, well, then the cocktail wine starts to settle in, and eventually, Aunt Betty takes a big swig. So, Heidi, how many wildlife have you saved this year? Things are starting to get lively. It's a good thing I was the livelihoods coordinator for 10 years. I'm not a wildlife expert. I work with people who make policy. Well, let me tell you about the baby squirrel that I saved in my backyard. Last year, it was the robin. The year before that, the baby raccoon. And for some reason, every single year, this woman wants to one-up me on how many wildlife she saved. I am working for a global conservation organization in 67 countries, and she is working in her backyard. Add Thanksgiving and wine to Aunt Betty, and you suddenly have David freaking Attenborough, wildlife expert, telling me everything I should know about wildlife. And then we invited the little baby squirrel inside, and we put it in the shoebox so it could nestle into the dish towel, and then I fed it Lucky Charms. I'm in quiet panic. That is not the right choice for squirrels. Lucky Charms will make them hyper. Okay, even more hyper. I may not be a wildlife expert, but I do know that habitat fragmentation is a big problem for many different species of wildlife, including Aunt Betty's ultra hyper squirrels in her yard. Nobody knows much about habitat fragmentation because all we ever hear about is climate change. Climate change, like it's a serious crisis or something. I first learned about habitat fragmentation when I was 7. I was in northern New York. It was snowing, and I found the perfect field of pristine snow. No sled marks, no footprints, and no yellow. It was 4 p.m. and very dark outside, much like it is here for about 9 months a year. And the light from the moon was rising and glistening on the snow sparkles. And I took the largest step in my life, larger than the step between livelihoods coordinator and conservation social scientist. And in the middle of that smooth patch of snow, I started to make a snow angel. Where are my fellow snow angel people out there? Are you there? Join me? Yes. You didn't realize you were having an embodied experience in habitat fragmentation. And so I made a family of snow angels, and I carefully stepped out of each one so they could glimmer in perfect wholeness, much like what Mother Nature does with each squirrel family. And then the evil mutant teenagers appeared. Some of them are future climate change deniers and property developers. And they stepped and ran all over my snow angel family. They dashed the snow angel heads and broke the little fluffy wings and peed on them. They named the baby snow angel Billy. Yeah, it was very sad. All I was left with was a bunch of dead snow angels in their tattered, fragmented, and yellow habitat. Now you might imagine the snow angels turning into hyper squirrels, or gray foxes, or the white-throated sparrows, a forest bird whose population is crashing all around us. There's like 3 left, and they're all living at Aunt Betty's backyard. Aunt Betty's backyard. Yeah, Aunt Betty's backyard has those white-throated sparrows. And this is my life, battling habitat fragmentation every day against the evil mutant teenagers turned developer named Billy. But there's a lot we can do for those wildlife. We have to think through what that is. We can imagine the hyper squirrels and the gray foxes And the white-throated sparrows, they need plenty of room. And no, not the room that is inside your house, Aunt Betty. Not that room at all. What we really need to save, to help protect the rooms, what we need to make room for wildlife is we need wildlife-friendly approaches to land use development. And if we implement these development approaches at scale, we could save 1 billion acres for wildlife on private lands in North America. And I would save so many more wildlife than Aunt Betty ever could. And so I think that's it for the night.
Woo! People of Sustainable Stand Up, Heidi!
Nice.